For nearly 1,000 years, Windsor Castle has stood on a quiet hill overlooking the River Thames, its ancient stones watching time itself pass by. Long before electricity, before modern cities, before the idea of a nation as we know it today, this castle was already alive with power, fear, ambition, and death. Built in the year 1070, just 4 years after the Norman conquest of England, Windsor Castle was ordered by William the Conqueror as a symbol of dominance. It was meant to remind the people that England now belonged to a new ruler. At first, it was nothing more than a wooden fortress surrounded by earthworks, but even then, its purpose was clear: to control, to intimidate, and to rule. As decades turned into centuries, the castle grew. Wood was replaced by stone, walls thickened, towers rose higher, new chambers were carved out of rock, hidden passages were added, secret stairways connected private rooms. With each expansion, Windsor Castle became more than a fortress. It became a kingdom within a kingdom. And where power lives for centuries, suffering always follows. Within these walls, monarchs plotted wars, prisoners were locked away without trial, enemies of the crown vanished quietly, their names erased from records. Some were executed publicly, others were never seen again. Their stories ended, but Windsor remembered. Many historians believe the castle sits on layers of emotional trauma so deep that it has left an imprint on the very stone itself, and that imprint still speaks. As night falls over Windsor Castle, the air changes. The wind moves differently through the towers. The long corridors seem to stretch endlessly. Shadows gather where there should be none. Those who have walked these halls after midnight describe an overwhelming sense of being watched, not threatened, watched. One of the most powerful spirits said to remain here is King Henry VIII, a man feared in life and perhaps still feared in death. Henry used Windsor Castle as both a royal residence and a place of judgment. It was here that he signed death warrants, here that he imprisoned those who displeased him, here that decisions were made which cost countless lives. 2 of his wives, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard, were executed on his orders. Though they were not killed at Windsor, many believe the guilt and violence of those acts became bound to the places where Henry ruled. After his death in 1447, reports began to surface. Guards claimed to hear slow, heavy footsteps echoing through empty stone corridors, footsteps that did not match their own. Witnesses described the sound of deep breathing, strained and unnatural, as if something massive was struggling to move through the air. Some claimed to see a large figure dressed in Tudor clothing appearing suddenly during storms, lightning flashing behind him. When he appeared, the temperature dropped sharply, candles flickered, and silence followed. Many believe Henry VIII still roams Windsor Castle, unable to accept the loss of power that death forced upon him. Another presence lingers here, far quieter, but no less haunting: Queen Elizabeth I. Often described as the Virgin Queen, Elizabeth ruled England during one of its greatest eras, but behind the glory, her life was filled with isolation. She never married, she trusted few, and she lived constantly surrounded by threats, betrayals, and fear. Late at night, castle staff have reported seeing a pale, glowing figure standing near high windows, looking outward into the darkness. She does not speak, she does not move, she simply watches. Some believe Elizabeth's spirit returns to Windsor, not as a ruler, but as a lonely soul, forever observing the world she once commanded, but never truly belonged to. Perhaps the most tragic figure tied to Windsor Castle is King George III. History remembers him as the king who lost the American colonies. Windsor remembers him as the king who lost his mind. King George III suffered from severe mental illness, particularly in his later years. As his condition worsened, he was confined within Windsor Castle, kept away from the public, hidden from the world. Witnesses at the time reported terrifying scenes, the king screaming through the night, crying uncontrollably, speaking to people who were not there, begging for forgiveness from voices only he could hear. Today, guards and staff still report hearing sudden shouts, frantic footsteps, and doors opening on their own in areas where George was held. Some believe his spirit is trapped in a never-ending loop, forever reliving his final days of confusion, fear, and isolation. But Windsor Castle is not haunted only by royalty. Beneath the castle lies a network of tunnels, some documented, many forgotten. Servants once used these tunnels to move unseen. Prisoners were taken through them in silence. Some were never brought back. Modern guards who have entered these tunnels describe intense dread, sudden nausea, and the feeling of being followed. Flashlights flicker, radios stop working, and the darkness feels alive. There are also rooms within Windsor Castle that remain sealed to this day. Rooms with no public records, doors that have not been opened for centuries. Some believe these chambers were used to hide political scandals, illegitimate heirs, disgraced relatives, or prisoners whose existence was too dangerous to acknowledge. If spirits truly linger where emotions are strongest, then these sealed rooms may hold more than dust and stone. Beyond the castle wall stretches Windsor Forest, and within that forest lives one of England's most chilling legends, Herne the Hunter. According to folklore, Herne was a royal huntsman in service to King Richard II. After being falsely accused of a crime he did not commit, Herne was disgraced and cast out. In despair, he took his own life, hanging from an oak tree deep within the forest. Soon after, sightings began. A ghostly figure with antlers growing from his head, riding a black horse beneath the moonlight. Locals say when Herne appears, storms follow, animals panic, and tragedy soon strikes the royal family. Even William Shakespeare referenced Herne the Hunter in his play The Merry Wives of Windsor, further cementing the legend. Some believe Herne is not merely a ghost, but a manifestation of betrayal and injustice, bound eternally to Windsor's land. In modern times, Windsor Castle remains disturbingly active. Security guards report seeing shadowy figures moving along stone walls, footsteps echoing in empty halls, doors opening on their own, cold hands brushing against their shoulders. Tour guides have heard whispers calling their names when no one was behind them. One guard resigned after encountering a headless figure walking calmly along the battlements. Another claimed to witness a group of medieval soldiers marching in formation, their armor clanking softly, before vanishing into thin air. Clocks within the castle have been known to stop suddenly, often at the same time, 3:15 in the morning, a time many associate with death. Royal staff are trained never to discuss what they experience. Those who break this rule rarely remain employed for long. And perhaps that's the most unsettling truth of all. Windsor Castle is still inhabited. The living walk the same corridors as the dead. They sleep beneath the same roof. They breathe the same air. Life and death have existed here for nearly 1,000 years. The castle has never been abandoned. It has never rested, and neither have the spirits bound to it. Every stone holds memory. Every corridor remembers fear. Every tower echoes with voices of the past. Windsor Castle stands as a symbol of British royalty, but beneath its crown lies a darker reality. It is not just a castle of kings. It is a monument to ambition, a record of suffering, a palace of ghosts. And when the lights go out and the castle falls silent, the past still walks its halls.